I think this whole enterprise and this launch is very, very timely. And that's already been alluded to before by Ken. I found it very inspiring listening to Ruth, and I could empathise with a lot of what she said. I've started a number of businesses, and I suppose over the years I've done reasonably well one way or another, but it hasn't all worked. And some of them have worked and some haven't worked. So whenever I'm talking about this whole area of entrepreneurship and enterprise, I would always be fairly humble about it, in that it's very, very hard to get it right. I want to talk to you about pressure, and I want to talk to you about people in the whole context of entrepreneurship and the sort of things that one has got to cope with. How do you feel? Today's reality for people in business is a very, very stern one indeed. Because the problem with running a small business in Fermanagh today, or in Dungannon, or the Moy where I come from, in County Tyrone, is that my competitors are not in County Armagh, and they're not in County Antrim. They're not even in Sheffield or London. My competitors are global. So how do I feel? If people can operate in a much lower wage economy, with much less regulation, and with a much easier environment in which to run their business. Now these people are competing head to head with me. Don't make any mistake about that. But I think I feel pretty much like this guy. Where everybody's saying, great man, he's just then the most powerful person in the world, probably the most lonely person in the world. And this is what everyone who has got to support, advise, help Barack Obama needs to remember. And it's what everybody who's got to support, help and advise the small business owner in Northern Ireland has got to remember. This man is lonely. He's got to cope with loneliness. How does he cope with it? Well, I think coping with loneliness, it was mentioned earlier about a mentor. There's a terrific role for you here. Now, I could actually point out a couple of people in this audience who have, in their own small way, been mentors to me, some of them quite a long time ago. And to get a mentor is an immense help. Now, what I say to, when I'm speaking to groups of entrepreneurs about this, I'm saying to them, proactively go and get a mentor. Whether they want you or not, go and get a mentor. Now, I would say to the audience here, where you get the opportunity to mentor and support people, you have no idea the immense value that that brings to people and how it helps them to cope with loneliness. Coping with fear. Barack Obama has got to cope with a lot of fear. Get a supporter. He'll have lots of supporters. The person who comes in off the street, the young woman coming in to try and start a business, doesn't have a lot of support perhaps. This is an area where you can be of immense help. Be proactive in your support. Be generous in your support. Be friendly and be nice. Remember, these people are under a lot of pressure. They're really struggling. And I'll tell you about a situation in my own experience. Quite a few years ago, I had done very, very well. I worked for a couple of multinational companies and I'd done very well and I'd made a fair bit of money. And then I was involved in a buyout of a big company, and I went in as chief executive as part of that buyout, and a couple of years later I managed to sell it off to a multinational company and I made a lot of money. And then I invested my money in various places, and anyway, one thing or another, started up a few businesses, but there was a perfect storm came along and hit me, and everything seemed to be going wrong. Nothing was going right. I wasn't doing things much differently than I had before, but the perfect storm hit me, and my problems multiplied to the extent where the beautiful Georgian house that I had, the lands, the farm, the lovely cars, the holiday homes, the whole thing was about to disappear. And it was really desperately, desperately bad. And I remember vividly, I'd come down in the morning to the kitchen, and we had a couch in the kitchen, and I'd come down and I would lie down on the couch in the classic fetal position, just terrified. And not knowing what to do or where to go. And there were mornings when my wife trailed me out of that couch, put my coat on me, handed me the briefcase, stuck it in front of me, and walked me out to the car. And she said to me, "Will, just give it one more day." And if I hadn't had that, I wouldn't have gone out and done that. Now, I got it rescued, I got it sorted, I fixed it. But I couldn't have fixed it without a supporter. Now, you folk here are supporters of people who, from time to time, are going through situations like that. Nobody outside knew about it. Nobody outside knew I was lying like a wreck. Because I would go out with my suit on, and I would walk in, and I would front the thing up. And people thought, well, he's just his normal self. So we just press on. Now, I couldn't have done that without my supporter. If Mary hadn't done that for me at that time. Now, you have got a similar role for an awful lot of people. They do need support. I would ask you, because I know many of you do it, I would ask you to help people in that situation. Is that work-life balance is an aspiration to be earned. It's not a right that you've got. You've got to earn it. And in order to earn it, you've got to work hard. Now, you need to tell people that. Because if they don't work hard, they're not going to get to a position where they have earned enough to enable them to have this work-life balance to which we all aspire. I understand people, and I feel for people. And whenever people work with me, people work harder than they work for anybody else. Because I understand them, and I'm empathetic. And what I'm saying to you as a group is just realize how important empathy is, how important it is to help and understand people. And if I can just give you another wee rural story, which underlines that point. I was lying in the bath one Sunday morning. Now, don't go too far in picturing this. It's not like this. But I was lying in the bath one Sunday morning, and I was listening to Radio Ulster. And this story came on, which struck me deeply. And it's a true story about a lady who tells a story about herself as a wee girl out in the country. It's a true story. And there's a bit of it in my highly acclaimed and excellent book, which is available at a very special price. To those who go onto my website. I know I'm not allowed to advertise, but I'll just have to tell you that. It's actually in the book. And the story goes like this. Her name was Sheila Quigley. We were always sent to confession on a Saturday. I was on my own that day, and I went into confession, and whenever I came out again, the sky was very overcast. And I just got down past the beautiful thatched house at Farmings. The skies opened and the rain came dashing down and there was no shelter. So I began to run down the road. And I was coming past the Greenfields estate, and the door of the gate lodge was opened a wee bit, and a lady was standing at the door. She said, "Come in, wee McKee. You'll be drooped to the skin out in that." And she brought me in and she said to me, "Sit down by the fire until you get yourself dried." She took my shoes and socks off. She dried my feet. She hung my socks over the rack of the stove and took the bow off my hair, and she dried my hair. And by that time, after she'd combed it, the ribbon was dry. She put it back in my hair and she tied it. Oh, she was just the loveliest woman you can imagine. She said to me, "Would you like a wee drop of milk?" And I said, "Yes, please." And then she gave me not one, but 2 jam tarts. Now, this was the war, and 1 jam tart was a luxury, but 2 jam tarts were riches beyond treasure. And I sat and I was in heaven. And they were the most delicious jam tarts, a real treat for me. Whenever the rain went over, she put 4 jam tarts in a blue sugar bag, and she gave them to me to take home to the rest. And I went down the road, and I thought I was in heaven. And I said to myself, when I grow up, I am going to be kind and good and loving, like Mrs. King. And I think that that just illustrates the importance that kindness is for each one of us as we deal with people. Let me inspire you today to help those people more, because they're feeling lonely, they're feeling hurt, they're feeling that they're working too hard. They need help. And if I can inspire you to help them, there's a direct link between inspiration and aspiration. If I can inspire you, your aspiration to help those people will be higher. If you aspire higher, you will achieve higher. And if you achieve higher, then the fundamental, basic message of this enterprise initiative here will be fulfilled, because you'll be promoting and helping small enterprise. You'll be helping to build a more enterprising Northern Ireland. I wish you well in that. You've got a wonderful, wonderful, challenging task. Thank you very much.